Oh, yes. So, today is the final day for the book review with the Atomic Habits. Hang on, we're telling. Isn't Instagram so lovely? It hears me start talking and it's like, hold on. Wait. Birthday girl, wake up early. Good morning, cuz. I hope you had a good night. You enjoyed your birthday? Oh, yes. Well, thank you for joining. Today's actually the last one because it's chapter 18 and 19 that I usually do 2 chapters together. But I decided because they're small, just wrap it up because it's the last 3 chapters. So I said, let me go ahead and do everything today, okay? So let's just get right to it because, the essence of time, right? Hold on. Okay, so chapter 18 goes ahead and it talks about the truth about talent and when genes matter and when they don't. So he starts off by telling a story about Michael Phelps and another athlete. They're both swimmers. Both of them have a certain body structure and build. Both of them ended up being very successful athletes. But in comparison, when you look at it, what was it that allowed them to be successful in their talent? Because one of them was actually built, their body was built to be an athlete, and the other person was not. Of course, you deserve it. You deserve it for sure. So with that, he goes in to tell this story about having this natural ability to do something because of how your genetics are set up versus having to do work to actually achieve whatever it is, the outcome you're looking for. So the secret to maximizing your goals of success is to choose the right field of competition. Habits are easier to perform and more satisfying, and you're able to stick with them when they align with your natural abilities. So you know how it is. We as people do not necessarily like to go out of our way the extra mile to do certain things. I mean, there's some people who are very competitive and they enjoy the push and the drive of doing something out of the box. But most of the time, people like to be within their comfort zone, right? He says, our genes help us to determine our areas of opportunity. A direct effort towards those areas that excite and match our natural skills. It will help align our ambition and ability. So if we can do things when we're talking about changing our habits, if we can make the changes that make us feel satisfied and doesn't seem strenuous as a change, then it will make the process easier, right? He goes in to say, how does your personality influence our habits? 1, he talks about the consciousness. Are we organized and easygoing, or are we efficient and spontaneous? What side are we on? We like it light and easy, or we want a little challenge? We like that spontaneity. We want more challenge. We're risk takers. You know what I mean? Or are we like, look, I'll do this thing, but I don't want it to require too much of me because that's just how I'm built, right? Consciousness. So that was consciousness. And then extroversion. Are we outgoing and solitary? Or are we energetic? Outgoing and energetic, sorry. And then are we solitary and reserved? So there are people who maybe their goal is to do public speaking. And for them, no problem. It's nothing for them to go ahead and speak to different people because naturally that is something that they do. So for them to take on such a task, it's like, oh, put me in this class, or I'm just going to choose to get in this and do it because, you know what, it's my thing. And then there are other people who are like, you know what, honestly, I would love to speak to more people because I have to say something, and I know that people would really appreciate my words, but I'm shy, I'm quiet, I stick to myself, I don't know how I can do this. Well, those people will have to take steps towards getting involved with public speaking, maybe in small steps, or take a class and learn more about how it works before they go ahead and try it. Some people will, just try it, and then some people will say, well, I'm not trying, I'm going to go see if I can learn behind the scenes before I even get involved, right? So there's different ways that you can look at that. Agreeable. Are you friendly and compassionate, or are you challenging and detached? Well, that in itself is just very straightforward. What is your personality like? And what is it that you're trying to get into? Or what is it you're trying to change? And what are you willing to do to sacrifice that? Good morning. Okay, so listen to this, ladies. Both of you guys were celebrating your birthdays yesterday. Surf Your Life and my cousin Trigger Trey. Both of you celebrated your birthdays yesterday, and I'd like to say happy birthday to you both. Okay? So I'm just going over the end of the... It is early. Yes, it is. This is my last review for the Atomic Habits, chapter 18, 19, and 20. It's the last one. So in this chapter, he's explaining how our genetics can help us to make the transition easier when we are changing certain habits. So he explains each one of those things in detail. If you want to go into the chapter, it's on page 221 and 222, right? He says how to find a game where the odds are in your favor. Now, some people like things that require the least amount of effort, and that's reflective of the last one, right? Picking a habit that is right by focusing on what is easy to implement. Now, as I said, some people like easy, some people like hard. But when it comes to changing new habits, sometimes you got to tread lightly, because you do not know if what you're doing is going to be successful. And sometimes if you start too hard right away, it turns you off and you end up giving up a lot faster, right? So be careful and be mindful of the actions that you take when you are changing a new habit. Explore options of the habit, right? Be mindful of the time and the effectiveness. So he had mentioned the fact that time is not on everybody's side, right? I don't know about you guys in your age bracket, but, well, I do know my cousin. I don't know Surf Your Life. But just seeing you guys, we're over our 20s, right? We know that we do not have the most time to make certain decisions and take time to really decide. We have to put thought into I think we've already put enough thought into the things that we want in our life. So if we're looking to make certain changes, we do know that we have to... Oh, girl. All right. Throw it up there. 44. Wow. Good for you. Atomic Habits. That's right. Well done. I don't usually drink tea, but I need my tea today. A good mint tea. Excuse me. Yeah, well, congratulations. Over 44. And because you know your age. So the good business. So we're old enough to know we don't have time to waste. Whatever it is we want to do, we need to plan it out. We need to make sense of what we're going to do and how we're going to change it. And we have to try small. Start small and then work your way in. See if it's working. They always talk about statistics, measuring your goals, measuring your success rate, right? Looking at it and reviewing it to say, is this working or is it not? Right? As long as you know you're doing better than previous, then that's great. But then there's sometimes when you change a habit, it may interfere with something else that you're doing. So be very mindful of that. He says, if it's working, keep executing. If it doesn't, get it out of there. Now, these are some of James Clear's suggestions when considering, changing your habit. What feels like fun to me, but work to others. So what feels like fun to me but may not work to others, right? Good morning, Carla. How you doing? Good morning. I appreciate you. I know, girl. Thank you for coming. So today's the last chapter. I'm wrapping up all 3 chapters in one. Chapter 18, 19, and 20. We just finished talking about our genetics and how using your natural inclinations to form new habits can help. It's beneficial. And then the other means of, just knowing that you have to do something that is either, it depends on you. Are you a person who likes a challenge, or are you a person that's like, look, let me take step by step, let me take my time and get used to what I'm doing, right? So that's what that was about. But these are some questions that he has. Then he says, what makes you lose track of time? Where do I get greater returns that is beneficial to whatever you're doing? What comes naturally to me? So, one thing is, when I started this book review, I decided to break down the chapters for us to discuss it, or for me to even read it, because I'm a person, I do not like to just read things, especially if it's something that, when it comes to changing, I believe that it takes time to process the information. At least for me, it takes time to process it, and then after think about the application of whatever it is I'm going to do to make changes. That's why I said, okay, start off at 5:30 a.m. because you want to wake up earlier, right? Me doing it for the Atomic Habits turned into a routine of me waking up earlier and seeing the benefits of rising at an early time. However, there are other habits that I want to change. I want to increase. He did start off in the book, I don't know if you guys recall, when he said, see yourself in the position that you want to be years ahead, right? And act and perform in that, right? Don't wait to get there to perform. Do those things now. So that way when you get there, it's nothing. So the fact of the matter is, I started to implement certain things because I know rich people, they don't sleep. They barely sleep. They get a certain amount of rest, and then they get up and they deal with their day, right? They communicate with people. They're always in front of people. So I decided, sharing the idea with a group of people online and discussing this book or giving my review on the book is my ability to talk to people. It's public speaking, something that I'm not used to doing, but at the end of the day, it's something that I will want to do. So why not give it a try, right? So I started to implement certain things, but there are other areas that I have to apply it to, right? So when it comes to taking the time, take that time. So how to get the most out of your genes? It's more productive to focus on your level of fulfilling your desires. He says, do not compare yourself to others or anyone else, right? This is something I think by now a lot of us are fine with. The older you get, the less I'm only hoping, the less that you would be looking at other people's life or the things that they do and think that that's what you have to work towards achieving. Because honestly and truly, it's all about your purpose, right? What are you here to do? That's what we're supposed to really be figuring out as we get older, if you didn't get the opportunity to figure that out when you were younger. You know what I mean? What am I here to do? What is it that I want out of life, and how do I have to work to achieve it? When I look at other people who are in the role that I'm in, I don't sit there and say, well, I want that person's skill. I want to be able to speak like them because yada, yada, yada. No, I don't. What I admire about what they do is how they present information, how they are able to keep people's attention. But then at the same time, I know Natalie enjoys certain things. I like to have fun. And as much as I want to talk about serious things, I want to be able to incorporate the fun side of me into certain discussions. And when I see some people, and I'm not knocking them because that is their natural way of doing things, when they have certain discussions, they just talk. And sometimes it could come across as a lecture depending on who it is, if there's no, vibrancy in it. So I want to bring a little difference where I bring my personality into whatever it is I do, right? So admire people, but don't aspire to be them. Genes don't make you successful if we avoid reflecting and putting in the work. It identifies what to work to the most. Okay? Then he talks about the Goldilocks rule in chapter 19. The Goldilocks rule, how to stay motivated in life and work. Now, when it comes to my page, obviously it's about financial services. But at the end of the day, I'm also all about mental health and well-being and just seeing people flourish and achieve things that they desire to do in any area of their life. I think it's very important that we try to fulfill the things that we want. You know what I mean? Because a lot of the times we're stuck in our heads for too long, thinking, doubting, and we don't move. So let's be able to incorporate both and change many areas of our life. And that's why this book, in the beginning, he had mentioned, when we set goals, we focus on achieving a certain task. And when we achieve that certain task, all the work that we put in to achieving the task, guess what happens? It's done because we completed the goal, right? We break off from the routine of waking up in the morning. We break off from, if it's reading. If we had a goal to save a certain amount in our bank account, because we achieved that goal, there's no more savings anymore. We fell off. That's no good. So what he says is, forget the goal setting, build better habits, build better routines, have structure in your life where these things that you do, they are principles that will spin and continue in other areas of your life where you will see the benefits throughout, right? And then within that, he just continued talking about several different things, which makes it ultimately beneficial to work on your habits anyways, right? You just see it as a holistic approach to self-improvement. So our brains love to be challenged, but only if it's within the optimal zone of identity. So this part seems very repetitive again, right? But he goes into this Goldilocks rule. A challenge of manageable difficulty is important, not hard or not too easy. Like the third law of behavior change, which is make it easy. I don't know if you guys remember that change. That was early on in the chapters. Make it easy. When you make it easy, so he was saying, remember that 1%? 1% every single day. What is the return on your investment in whatever you do, right? It's just like starting a bank account, and you know that you only have a certain amount of money to put aside. Now, most people think, oh, that money's not gonna do anything. If I only save $25 every 2 weeks or every month, that's not gonna be anything. Well, that's more than it would be if you didn't do anything, right? So it's better that you start with a 25, get used to throwing 25 in there, and then guess what? When you keep working and you see that money accumulate, it may ping something in you. Well, it usually does ping something in you that makes you say, ooh, I like the way that looks. Bank account looks nice. I'm enjoying this. Let me put it up to 30. Let me put it up to 40. You know what? Honestly and truly, I'm spending money in other areas that I'm not supposed to. I'm going to make this a $50 bi-weekly transaction, right? When we make it easier and we keep watching what's happening and we enjoy and we see the returns of the labor that we put in, then it is going to inspire us to want to do more, right? Yes, straight facts. This book was really a good read. As we establish a habit, make adjustments to level up in small ways. So, I just went into that part just now. It says how to focus when we get bored working on our goals. Now here, when I saw this part, I was like, sir, you're talking to me, because I'm going to tell you guys right now. Okay, financial habits is one thing, right? Having problems with managing your finances is just one thing. If you're trying to change, it requires a lot of work. but it also requires to know that it has to be done, because ultimately that's what we live off of, currency, right? And if you're trying to be a good role model, if you're trying to make sure that you're taking care of your own future and you don't want to be dependent on anyone, especially the government system, which I really do believe people need to be mindful of. I'm not saying anyone here in particular, I'm just saying people need to be mindful of, then we have to make the change, right? However, there are some processes that, you know, after you start, it's like, okay, I'm getting it. I don't like this. This is boring. And then guess what happens? You stop. Now, this to me is reflective of working out. Because working out, before, I was a very active person when I was younger. Up until even maybe about 4 years ago. But the older I get, the harder I feel it is to exercise. Who's with me with the exercising? Okay? I find it very, very difficult sometimes to commit to exercising. However, I recognize the benefits of the exercise, and we've known that for many, many years. But the thing is, what I had to recognize is you have to find a way to do what you want to entertain you and keep you interested. So, one, I started off with following an instructor online, right? That worked out. I did that. I enjoyed the person. They had a great personality. The exercises started light and airy. The music was good, so I was going. But then after a while, I was like, this routine is boring. So I switched it up. And I went to somebody else's class online. And I was like, let me try this person. And when I went to that next class, I was like, Lord have mercy. This one, as much as someone recommended it to me, is not for me. Because this person has me here, there, and everything and everywhere with a stepper. And that was taking up too much out of me. Plus, I was like, oh my gosh, the people underneath me in the apartment, they're going to be like, listen, I'm going to complain because she's making up too much noise out there, Then I decided, let me walk. So at the end of the day, what I did is, as much as there were days that I did not do it, I kept thinking about what other ways I can continue doing the exercise so that it would help me, right? And why was I exercising? To lose weight. So in that, I had to think, well, it doesn't only require exercise, it requires food. What food habits do you have that are not beneficial to the goal that you're trying to achieve? And when I reviewed that, I realized, really being home during this quarantine, I'm near the fridge all the time, but I have to have self-control. And I've been off the rails for a little while. I'm going to be honest. I've been off the rails. However, what I recently started to do was write down my food, my daily intake. Because as they say about finances and everything else, it's tracking the things. That's how you're able to measure what it is that you're doing. Well, I said, let me make a food journal, and then I can look at it. And sometimes when you end up writing the stuff, food is the key. It is the key. But the thing is, what happened to me yesterday? Let me do a little confession. So, I was looking for the food journal. It's not here. It's probably out there. I see. And that's another thing. He mentioned environment. Where is it that you do the activity, right? To make it consistent. So what you do is you set yourself up where when you want to do your food journal, keep the food journal in an area where it is accessible at the time that you plan to do the activity. So what I did was I kept it, it's on the counter, actually. That's where it is. So, see, I'm applying the atomic habits to my life. So anyhow, so I wrote the food, I wrote down what I ate, and I was like, the morning started off real nice. I was proud. Then after I was getting hungry during the day, and I didn't have nothing there. And there were chips. So I went down to the bottom and I was like taking the chips. And there's the food journal. And I was like, Natalie, you got to write it down. So I wrote it in there. Didn't like the way that looked. But it's the truth, right? We get bored and we want to achieve something. He's talking about the boredom still boredom, okay? We need to get over the boredom and just do what we have to do. It's consistency. When we do it, it will allow us to just continue. We have to commit. That's the thing. The only way that we're going to make the change is by continuing. However, if something is bored, find another activity to help you maybe continue the process another way, right? Measurable. Now this is chapter 20, last chapter. The downside of creating good habits. The benefit of habits come with a cost, right? Accountability and meal planning helps me. So you know what? Let me tell you guys about Carla. This is my sister-in-law. And years ago when I was going to school, I never forget. I was talking to her and she was telling me her prepping. What she does to prep after she goes to the grocery store and buys the food and stuff. And she said, what you do is you buy your meat. When you buy it in bulk, you come home, chop it up, season it, and then clean it, season it, and then freeze it. And I was like, yeah, okay. And let me tell you guys, not only, it seems like a task after you come home from the grocery store, because who likes to keep standing after you come home? But it's worth it because the food is seasoned in the freezer. You've already now killed the time that you would be using, that you have to use to clean. I don't even like cleaning meat. So you have to do all of that stuff before you start cooking it. And usually when people are doing these things in the evening after work, that takes up so much time. So when she gave me that tip, I used it very, very often. However, slacked off a little bit, I'm going to be honest. But those are some of the consistencies that we need. And then at the same time, meal planning. So that's what I was going to go to, is meal planning, because when I looked at my list in the book that I wrote yesterday, by the afternoon, my food log wasn't looking as good, right? So I recognized that I need to start meal prepping. As much as I'm home, I can have little things set aside for snacks and then know that I'm drinking water and whatnot, right? So the upside, develop a habit. When we develop a habit, we become less sensitive to feedback, right? Upside, we act without thinking, but miss out on little errors. So this is the downside to creating good habits. This is when we're not really paying attention. He says, form a habit. Deliberate practice. So we have to form a habit plus deliberate practice will make mastery. So let me say that part again. We form the habit and then deliberate practice. So we have to act. No matter if the previous chapter was talking about if it gets bored and what to do, the fact of the matter is, if you know it's a change that you want, then you have to find a way to, one, make it easy, make it something that you are interested in doing, and then deliberately practice, and you will be able to master the new habit. We need to refrain from conscious. Okay, so this is what I had spoken about before, where we have to pay attention to what we're doing as we do it. So that way, one, we can stop ourselves when we're going in the wrong direction. And then two, we can recognize if there's something about whatever it is we're doing that needs to be changed. So as I continue to read this, it does repeat every last chapter. The last 3 chapters are basically repeating themselves in different ways. But at the same time, let's just continue going through it because repetition is key, right? That's what it is. Same thing said 3 different ways will help to trigger your thoughts and your interest in a different way, right? Review your outcomes every once in a while. So he's saying that what he does is once a year, he will sit down and take a look at the things that he does, the goals, the things that he's desired to work on and the outcomes to see if there's any change that needs to happen. He reviews it, right? He's saying just like businesses, when businesses have their end of year review, I believe that's what they call it, end of year review, they sit down and they look at what did we implement this year? And how did that work? What do you think all them 10 people are sitting at the table doing? They're looking to see if their corporation implemented things that are beneficial, that is bringing them what they're looking to, their outcomes that they want for their business, or do they need to scratch it and come up with something else, right? So he's saying we should do the same thing for ourselves. Become enlightened by the truth. He performs it. So an integrity report is what he calls that, right? When you sit down and you do this review, it's an integrity report. This is you being honest with yourself to say, am I doing right by me with whatever it is that I set out to do? And if I'm not, maybe I need to pull up here and adjust here. Yeah, I'm going to do that and let's see what happens. Then you review it and you keep going, right? These are some of the questions that he asks himself when he does this review. What are core values that drive my life and work? How am I living and working with integrity right now? And how can I set a higher standard in the future? 3 very important questions. Food is, yes, I read that. Those are 3 very important questions. The integrity part is very important because that's being honest with yourself. You know what I mean? That's being very honest with yourself. And even for myself, like, look, when I started this page, it's all about financial literacy. But the one thing I had to be mindful is whatever I share with people is also the actions that I'm taking for myself. I can't tell people come out of debt and I'm not working on finances for myself. I'm not telling people to invest in things and I'm not taking the opportunity to put my money to invest in my future. That's not right. That's hypocritical. I'm not going to tell you to save for an RESP and think about your children if I haven't done the same. Who am I to tell people to get life insurance and protection and make sure that, you know what, in case of an untimely death or disability that you have coverage, right? And I don't have it. That's not how I operate. I do not operate like that. So whatever it is that I show, I always show it based on something that I'm already doing or I'm aspiring to do. But the likelihood of me talking about it is because I already did it, right? Or I am still working on it. And it's for encouragement. All right. Plus, I'm in the financial industry, so I got to talk about stuff, right? So how can I set a higher standard in the future? Reflection can also bring perspective. Do not spend an excess amount of time doing this. So when he's talking about this whole integrity report and reviewing yourself every once in a while and taking a look at your goals, the things you're working on and aspire to do, don't sit down too long paying attention to be reflective, but do not overthink, because sometimes when we overthink, it will really throw us off, right? Get down to the nitty gritty and decide, is it working or is it not working, right? Avoid making any single aspect of your identity an overwhelming portion of who you are. Redefine yourself. Write a statement. So instead of saying, I say I'm a financial advisor, it says, this is my rewrite. I am aware of my financial responsibilities and I love to see money grow and I like to help other people position themselves as well. So instead of identifying yourself with the role of employment or a career, right? Identify yourself with the things that you find valuable doing that stands out and is a clear indication of also that same title, right? And then he says, life is continuously changing. We need to periodically check in to see if your old habits and beliefs are still serving you. So once again, it's that reflection. Go in, take a look, see if it works. If it does, keep going. If it doesn't, reset it, okay? And in closing, this is the last review, as I said, and I'd like to thank you all for taking the time to join me over the last few weeks. It's very important that you have support, and I'm so happy that I have had this support. It makes me inclined to do it again, but not at 5:30. I don't think it's a good idea at 5:30 a.m. I will continue my habit of waking up at 5:30 a.m., but now I'm actually doing lives during the evening hours. I cannot set a consistent time with that because I work shift work. So some evenings I'm working, others I'm not. So what I will do, just to let you guys know, if you ever see me put up a post that I'm going to be on live, I'll be likely try to put up the post 24 hours ahead of time. Thank you, Carla. I appreciate it. Thank you. So look out for the post, and then if you have the opportunity to join, come on in, okay? So this is what he's saying in closing. So behaviors are effortless when they are obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying, right? The laws of behavior change. And then we have to make behaviors that are difficult to us invisible. Well, not difficult to us. The ones that we want to get rid of, the habits we want to get rid of, we need to make them invisible, unattractive, hard, and unsatisfying. When we are able to do that, we are able to be a lot more successful at changing our habits atomically. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You guys are the bomb. Y'all are the bomb. And I hope you guys have a beautiful day. I don't know what the weather's set to be, but stay safe, okay? And thanks once again. Take care. And